I'm Angie Gallion, and I'm a local author, and I help out with Mike's hometown novel night. He is definitely the force behind it, but occasionally I get to step in and do a little bit along the way. And then we have Rosalind Bunn and her daughter Maggie Bunn, who are children's book writers that they work together. Would you guys like to say hello?
Sure, hello.
And then we have Jacqueline Leigh, who I had the pleasure of meeting several years ago at I think I met you first at a night market event in Peachtree City.
Yes, I have been to a few night markets.
Yes, and you had just written The Spill, I think, was your book at that time.
Oh my God,
so,
seems like so long ago.
Seems like so long ago, absolutely. Well, let's go ahead and start off with Rosalind and Maggie today. And we're going to talk a little bit about what you have currently out and what's coming up. And the thing that I want to know is I want to know sort of your journey, but more than that, I want to talk about what age group your book is marketed toward. And I want to talk about your artists, because I want to give a little shout out to them, because that's always fantastic. And then what lessons you feel your book brings to a young reading audience. Okay? And I'll let you take it away.
All right. So our latest title is Beau's Bayou Treasure. Maggie and I co-authored this book, and it was published by River Road Press, which is an imprint of Pelican Publishing, which is also an imprint of Arcadia Publishing. The illustrator is Michael P. White. You may be familiar with him. He did the Library Dragon books. Maggie and I also have another title. Maggie, you want to talk about it?
It is called Once Upon a Zoo. It was our title. It's about a princess that and it was illustrated by Keller Pye, who is actually our illustrator for our newest book coming out called All Aboard Georgia, and that will be out next.
When will that one be out?
We don't know exactly a date, but
Fall 2021 in the fall. And actually, interesting that you bring up illustrators. Typically, traditionally published books, we don't meet the illustrator. It just so happens that we had met Michael P. White before. He lives here in Buckhead, here in Atlanta, around Atlanta. So we have met him, but we've never met Keller. Also, this would be, All Aboard Georgia will be my 8th title. So other illustrators I've not met, which is kind of interesting, but what you have to remember is that the publisher is in it to make money, and there's different perspectives. There's mine and Maggie's, there are the illustrators, but ultimately it's the publishers, because, you know, it's a business and they're wanting to make money. We also have been offered a proposal for a series for the All Aboard books, or All Aboard Georgia. They may turn into a series. We're kind of talking about that right now. And as far as the journey, for me, it started in 2011 with a very small press in Savannah, Georgia, that no longer publishes books. They published my 2 titles. And then the next couple of titles were published by a small press that was here in Atlanta that kind of took a different direction that I was not happy with, because, you know, our books are traditionally published, and they were wanting to do other options with other authors, and we weren't interested in that. So just by sloppy luck, Once Upon a Zoo was featured at the Louisiana Book Festival, and Maggie and I walked up to a gentleman who we knew was a traditionally published children's book publishing company, and introduced ourselves. And they asked for the next manuscript, and that's sort of where we're at. So a lot of
fantastic. Well, isn't that the truth, though? I think there is often a lot of sloppy luck that just goes into anything that comes together for fruition. So that's very interesting. But I didn't know that about illustrators and authors not necessarily being in communication with one another. Yeah, so that's fascinating for me.
Yeah, we
so thanks for sharing that.
Spoken with Kevin a couple times on the phone, but there's emailing back and forth. So we're glad that the publisher wants our ideas about it, because they don't necessarily have to go with what we want. So it's great that we can talk back and forth and, you know, decide on things together.
Mm-hmm. But we're kind of at that point, I think, because it is the 8th title. They're giving us a little bit more leeway, but ultimately nothing gets sent to us before it's approved by the publisher themselves.
So really, whenever you agree to your contract, you are handing over your manuscript and they're going to take it where they take it at that
yes,
point.
and I mean, they certainly, you know, the editor goes through. We did offer lots of suggestions for illustrations throughout the last manuscript. Whether they take them or not is, you know, still up in the air because we've only seen character sketches so far. But like I said, everything, before Maggie and I see anything, it's already been approved by the publisher. So before the, actually the assistant editor has been sending us things, it's already been approved. If we absolutely hated it, Maggie and I would hope that they might go back and make some changes, but we're still a little unsure about that.
Right. Luckily, you haven't had to find that out. So
we haven't yet, no.
Then you're lucky. In your books, tell me, is there a message you're trying to convey to our young readers?
You know, before, you know, the potential for a series, I think Maggie and I just wanted, in fact, we still do, standalone books. I was never interested in a series. I don't know about you, Maggie. We never really talked about it.
We were never interested. And we kind of felt like, you know, the state book has been done before. But they think it will be a great thing. We can't say no.
No. Well, I mean, there have been books, of course, children's books that have been published, you know, featuring a state, so to speak. But ours is definitely a unique concept, and I think that's why they went with it. It's never been done before, so I think that's kind of why they went for it. As far as lessons, honestly, we never start out that way, ever. You know, I feel like any kind of book that's preachy or has, you know, our books are fantasy. And they always end up with a message. For instance, Beau, of course, has a treasure map and he's gotten from his grandfather, and he's exploring the bayou, but he's looking for silver or gold. But he realizes that the real treasure is the habitat, the animals that he spoke to along the way. So it worked out that way, but that was never the intention. Our Once Upon a Zoo book, you know, of course, all these wonderful animals came to the castle, but there was a puppy there the whole time. And he becomes that wonderful pet, and all the other animals go into the wild where they belong. It works out that we always end up with these sort of lesson byline things, but it never was the intention. So
that's very neat.
It's just kind of funny that it's worked out that way. Don't you think, Maggie?
Yeah, it really has. We just kind of started writing from the beginning. We'd each take chunks of it, and you do this and I'll do this, and then we get together and go line by line, and you know.
So when your books, what age group are you thinking they're ideal for?
Well, of course, a picture book is typically, you know, the industry says ages 3 to 5, but we sell the books from birth to 10. They're in independent bookstores, Barnes and Noble. Hopefully, Beau will be in Target. They're going to test market it in Louisiana, and high-end gift shops. So, I mean, it's just kind of interesting. It doesn't really fall into that age niche. Beau definitely has sold to the kind of older end. I would say, wouldn't you, Maggie, maybe 5 to 10 years old? The other titles, we're actually hoping that Zoo is going to be reprinted. We're still waiting to see if they're going to contract to do that, because there aren't any more, which we're happy and sad. And then some of my other titles are out of print also, and we're hoping that Pelican will want to reprint them. But we're
very good.
find out.
Very good. Well, I know that my girls are 11 now, and one of them in particular really enjoyed picture books until she was much older. So that's why I asked that question about age, is because she really did. She's an avid reader, but she really liked the combination of picture and words. And she would get things out of the picture that were not in the words. And so she always had a much fuller understanding of a story that she had seen develop. So I do think that there is a crossover for that.
Well, and teachers use them a lot to teach lessons. And honestly, some of the chapter books that are out now for kind of the younger set, for a child who's starting to read, picture books, their vocabulary is more developed in those books. And you're right, kind of that getting more understanding with the pictures and the illustrations. And sometimes, and what we're hoping for with All Aboard Georgia, there will be a lot of illustration that's going to convey the story in addition to the words. So, I mean, it's kind of where, you know, picture books, I think, are kind of lifelong.
Right. I think that's true. I still love them too.
Honestly, Maggie and I are so looking forward to those in bookstore events. We did one on Halloween at Foxtail Books, and it's starting to slowly, hopefully, come back. We did do a few virtual story times, and while those get, you know, over 1,000 views, for the publisher, they don't translate into book sales. So they pretty much told us kind of, you know, a bookstore or gift shop has to carry our books for us to do an event, which is great, but it doesn't translate into book sales like it would were we there in person. So they kind of told us to hold off and don't take on any, even though there are some new bookstores that are carrying the newest title, they don't want us to do virtual. They want us to wait till it opens back up. Say, we're vying for shelf space though. I mean, think about the, you know, hundreds of thousands of books that are published every year. I mean, do you think that Maggie and I, over the years, have developed lots of personal relationships with bookstores, which has been great, but also having, you know, a publicist behind us at Pelican, you know, different things like that really are helpful. But it, you know, honestly, I think they wouldn't even be considering, even though they're all aboard Georgia, I don't think they would be considering Maggie and I doing a series unless we had those relationships. And because the marketing of the author, which, you know, is critical. And you know, Maggie and I, while we like going to Savannah and Charleston and New Orleans, you know, and it's a little vacay for us also, it's a lot of work. And that's something, a track record is also what they're looking for before they'll traditionally publish you. That's for sure. Don't you think, Maggie?
Yes, definitely. We definitely had those relationships established before we even met them. And I think that's the only reason why they want us to do this series, because they know we already have those relationships.
And like a much smaller publisher, you know, while the books are traditionally published, it's pretty much a tag you're it. Yes, they'll print books. Yes, they'll do stickers. You know, they do some very small things, but in terms of really getting out there and helping with events, when they want you to do a book tour, so to speak, they're not really that helpful. So it's just, we're gaining with that assistance for sure. Each time we kind of move up and switch publishers, but so far we've been extremely pleased with Pelican.
That's good advice for all authors, to understand that in the end, the publisher is going to load your back with what you need, but you're the one that's got to carry it to wherever it's going to go. Would you agree with that, Jacqueline? I mean, you're busy. You fry my brain when I see you post like every 3 hours you're in another location. So.
I can't even believe this has been my most successful book, and it launched, I'm going to say soft launch, October 1st. It drops in Target, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Books A Million, December 1st. So it hasn't even officially launched. And I have been hustling. It's already sold 700 copies since October 1st, and it's insane. It's just been crazy. But yeah, I'm busy. I'm staying really busy.
But you are utilizing the Zoom opportunities. So let me transfer over and let me introduce Jacqueline here. This is Jacqueline Leigh. She has several books out now also. She has The Spill, Skedaddle, is that right?
Yeah.
Skedaddle.
Skedaddle.
And now her new one is called Time for Bed with Ford and Red, right?
No. So
No,
Time for Bed with Ford and Red was my first book.
that was your first book. So what's your new book?
The Spill was my second, and this is
Yeah.
the one that just released, Skedaddle.
So it is Skedaddle. That's the one that I wasn't familiar with, and I thought I just missed it. So, okay, so Skedaddle's the new book. So that's very exciting. What's this one about?
This is about a little girl named Nellie. This is Nellie here. She's in bed. She's trying her hardest to get some sleep, but up in the attic, we see all of these animals just keeping her awake. So it is a nighttime journey with Nellie trying to get these animals out of her attic. And it's a silly story, and she tries really silly things. The writing style was inspired by Oliver Jeffers' Stuck, and I'm sure most of you have seen that book. It's the cutest book, and Floyd gets his kite stuck in a tree, and he's doing all of these silly things to get the kite out. So that's what inspired Nellie, trying all of these silly ways to get the animals out of her attic. And it was inspired by flying squirrels in my very own attic. So, you know,
Very good.
real life experience here.
Real life experience. So who is your publisher? Who are you publishing with?
So I am so inspired by Rosalind and Maggie because I am still in that small publisher stage. So I'm watching you guys like, tell me everything. Like, tell me everything. That is so
Happy to share.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I'm already like, where is her email address? So I am published by Mascot Books, and they are a small publisher up in Virginia. And they published all 3 of my books, and it's very much like what Rosalind was saying. They publish the books, they get them into the bookstores. They say, here's your platform for events. And I go and I kind of run with it. So essentially, I feel like I'm doing all of the work, which, you know, I have a few traditionally published friends, and they say that they wish they could kind of have some of the control back from being with a small publisher, but it's a lot of work, which is why you guys are always seeing me, you know, do things, and I'm hustling all the time because it's on me to get these events, and it's on me to, you know, push it. So yeah, I mean, it's great, and I love them, and I haven't had any problems with them, but it would be awesome for one day to, you know, be fully traditional with that big publisher.
Yeah, and I think that the struggle though with, I mean, Maggie and I chose that route. We never wanted to have hybrid or self-published, and you know, it's a personal choice, and we've been lucky enough to be able to fulfill that. But you know, to be in the brick and mortar, that's really almost the only way.
Yeah.
And, you can be in the .com, you know, like barnesandnoble.com. I think anyone, you know, those publishers or hybrid can do that, but they're not getting you in the brick and mortar, which is really where you want to be. And it makes your marketing even harder because, you know, you've got to somehow get them to the .com, I guess.
Yeah, and this is me. I'm like, hi, my name's Jackie. I'm an author. Will you please put my book in your store? So she's right. They carry all of my books on the .com, but I have to do the legwork of reaching out to local managers saying, hey, you know, would you love to put this in your store? And luckily, I've never had anyone tell me no. So it's been good, especially if I'm a local author and they say, oh, well, you
That's
know,
good.
local, she's here, she's going to be here. So it's been okay, but it's been, I mean, it's a lot of work. It is, it's a ton of work, but it's, you know, I love it.
Well, I'll tell you, Jackie, I've met you a couple of times now, and every time I meet you, what I'm so impressed with is your enthusiasm. And I think that comes across. So I think the night that I saw you the first time at Night Market in Peachtree City, probably 2 years ago,
Yeah.
maybe 2 years ago, your table was as busy as any table out there. And you
Yeah.
were just talking and selling, and you kids were making bookmarks, and it was just amazing what you were doing. And I think so much of, like, I write novels, and I had some success at a night market after that, because you inspired me to try it. Because I'm like, nobody's going to buy a novel at a night market. I mean, what in the world? But I tried it, and it actually worked really well. But what I thought when I was watching you was that the format, the children's book format, lends itself so well to those markets.
Yes.
You know, because you have grandparents walking through, and I think that there's so many more opportunities for marketing for a children's book arena than there are for novels, because novels are kind of dull to get people excited about, you know, but you
Right.
have these beautiful, both of you have these beautiful books, all three of you, that you can say, look, you can sit with your kid and have quality time.
Yeah, and I think I love doing events like that. In fact, I just did Sonoya Live After 5. I'm sorry, I'm not from below Atlanta, so I know it's Sonoy, but I will always say Sonoya. So I did the Live After 5 event last night, and I mean, again, the table was so busy, and I fully believe, because my big platform is virtual school visits or in-person school visits, but I love to be in front of the kids, and I love to inspire children. I love to be a big part of the schools. So for me to get out into my local community, not only sell my book, but be a relatable person, that also helps, because I, in a way, am my own brand, because I don't have a series. I have standalone books, but I am my own brand because I want to be in front of the students. So I love to get out in those communities. And at Alive After 5, I had 4 teachers just happen to walk by that, and with schools I haven't been in yet, and they're saying, oh my gosh, we would love to have you. So it's about making those personal connections as well.
Absolutely. So whenever I just asked Rosalind and Maggie if they had like life lessons that they include. Do you include life lessons, or are you just whimsical and fun?
I really want to be whimsical and fun. And when I decided to write my first children's book, I sat down, and of course, when you sit down and you say, I'm going to write a book, you start going to, what are the lessons the kids need to learn today? And then I kind of backtracked, and I looked at my own day, and my days are filled with work, with my husband working, with being a mom, with life. And at the end of the day, I sit down and I zone out to some TV shows or a fictional book, something that just gives my brain a break. And I wanted that same thing for the kids, because especially now, these kids, they're in school from 7:30 to 2:30 learning. They're reading books that have life lessons in them. It's just such a saturated market, all of these books with lessons. And I feel like it puts a lot of pressure on these kids. So I wanted to write books where they're like, hey, let's read about the chipmunk in the attic right now. So a chance for them to just unwind the way all of us adults do.
So I think that's very interesting that all of our authors so far have said that that's not their goal. Life lessons are not their goal. They're writing a story that's going to be relatable and fun. I think that's very interesting. I like that. I forgot to ask when Maggie and Rosalind were up, if anybody had any questions for them.
Oh, if I have questions for them?
Do you have questions for them?
Yeah, I do. I have lots of great questions for them. I love that you guys were able to make a connection with folks from Pelican. And was that by chance that you guys were in the same location, or was it just a raw, I sent my manuscript with an email?
I don't know for sure if they accept unsolicited manuscripts. Maggie and I we have a holiday title that we're hoping to have an agent for. It doesn't mean that Pelican wouldn't publish it. We just haven't submitted it. But from the beginning in 2011, even though they were small presses, the books or my books, and then a publisher agreeing to a collaboration with Maggie, have always been traditionally published. So I think that track record, along with the previous title, Once Upon a Zoo, was being featured at the Louisiana Book Festival. And we just walked up and said, hi, I'm Maggie. We are traditionally published authors. Here's our backlist. Would you have an interest in looking at our latest manuscript? And then 2 months later, I get a phone call.
That's awesome.
So, I mean, that's what I said, sloppy luck. Now, at that point, though, we were actually looking for a different publisher, but we just hadn't really put a whole lot of effort into it because we had just launched Once Upon a Zoo, and it was being featured at Amelia Island, and it was being featured in Louisiana, and the book tour was, we were in all these bookstores. So having time to do that is a lot. That's where that sloppy luck came in. And of course, we've established a really great relationship with the publisher, and they're very interested in anything that we want to send them. But like I said, this, it's been since 2011, so that's 9 years ago. And also the fact that they were excited about that mother-daughter collaboration. I don't think there's a whole lot of that out there, especially in children's books. And, they didn't want to get into, well, Maggie thinks one way, I think one way, and then we got to deal with an illustrator and, but so far it's been great. We've been very pleased that they were excited about the collaboration.
Oh, good. That's so exciting and such a big move to make. I feel like I'm always looking for, with every manuscript I'm always sending it to the bigger publishers or agents, just hoping to get a yes. And so far,
well, that's kind of what it takes. I mean, that is what it takes. You're going to get a lot of no's before you get a yes.
Yeah, I mean,
and that's how it works.
That's one of
you can't take any of it personally.
Yeah,
it just is what it is. If you think of all the different, and even the publisher at Pelican said, we get thousands upon thousands of manuscripts. 99.9% go in the trash. Some of them they don't even look at. Some of them they look at for entertainment and then they throw them away. But they will have a slate of, I don't know, Maggie, do you remember how many books they say they typically will publish in a year?
It's not very many.
No, I can't remember if it was around 20 titles, not a whole lot more. So when you picture all those thousands and thousands of manuscripts, it really is a long shot.
Very selective.
Even with an agent.
Yeah.
That's really actually a really good visualization, because I don't think people understand how many manuscripts go through places. So a lot of people, and I know I'm one of them, I've been daunted by the idea of massive rejection, because I don't love rejection. Nobody does.
Well, nobody does, but
nobody does. But whenever you put it like that and you sort of put perspective around it, it changes that dynamic, I think. So that's really helpful for aspiring.
Well, a lot of times they may not have even read it.
Yeah.
Angie?
Capture them with your letter or your backlist or anything else. They're probably not going to read it. I mean, that's kind of where you are.
Well, and I was always hoping that my school visits, all of the school visits I've done, because since I published in 2013 was when I published, no, 2014 was when Ford and Red published. I've done over 500 school visits. So I was, I had that platform, and I was hoping that would be something that kind of translated, but I don't get bummed out when I get rejections. It's almost like I'll check my email and I'm like, oh, okay. Moving
Pass
on.
that one off.
Cross that one off.
Mike, do you have anything to add for Jackie?
Well, Jackie, I'm curious about your skedaddle. Okay. What grade level would you, is your focal point for skedaddle?
I do my school visits all the way up to 3rd grade. So those 3rd graders still love it. And it's a picture book, and they do have those sayings where with picture books, it's preschool, but it's not. I mean, it goes all the way up to 3rd grade. Even some 4th and 5th graders love it. But I would say the 8-year-olds love it more than the 4-year-olds might love it. So yeah, all the way up to about 3rd grade.
Well, I've got a great niece, and I say that because I'm getting that old that I have those. And that when I see the bed picture, on your book cover, I'm thinking, that she'd love this. And
Oh, good.
so Christmas already. So for that, absolutely.
Awesome.
And there's for Rosalind standpoint, I've got a passel of grand nephews that would buy into Bo's story for sure. Absolutely.
Well, support your
So-
local bookstore.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, yeah, and I say this in all honesty. Noonan, we had one and we lost it with the COVID scenario, Southern Fried Books. And not everybody goes to Barnes and Noble, but that's fine. But because there's something special. I don't know how you feel about it, Rosalind, but there's something special about independent bookstores.
Yes, I mean, Maggie and I absolutely love having an event at an independent. There's more of that kind of community neighborhood feel, especially when they're able to do all those events, with authors who are well known or not so well known. It really brings the community together, especially when they can do kind of like a talk about their process or, really what the story is about. I think, we as human beings crave that connection. And of course, with COVID, which hopefully will be over soon, and things get back to normal, that's going to be reestablished because I know Maggie and I are sort of tired of Zoom, and the computer actually, if we didn't have to do research and do some other things, the computer, I think, would be in the lake behind my house. Had enough of looking.
I agree with you.
Hi, Menlia. Nice to meet you.
How are
I don't
you?
think we've had the pleasure of meeting before. I've seen your books up at the Corner Arts Gallery. I've asked everybody else about their artists, and then any life lessons that they try to promote in their books. So I'll just turn it over to you. What's your most recent book?
Well, the last one I did was Misty Monarch, about the monarch butterfly, because I was piggybacking and basically doing it for the county. Rosalind Carter started that movement, the monarch trails and so forth. And all the drawings are children's drawings from school. And,
Oh, neat.
yeah, so it's children's art in the story. And that was the last one. And I tried to get one going here. I have not done anything in a while, done anything toward promoting or doing anything for a little while. But I put together a script for something related to the, what should we call it? The culture now of justice, lack of justice, injustice, wanting justice, that sort of thing. But my, unfortunately, my artist person was and is an inmate in prison for all of my books other than Misty Monarch.
Oh, wow.
Quite talented, but quite not really well now either, and said he could not help me to illustrate the last one, and I was like, no. So I haven't gone any farther or looked for somebody else. But it was a children's story too, and I was really disappointed. But
And
so-
your books are generally written for the preschool market to be read
not
to?
just preschool, no, I would say up through maybe about 3rd graders.
That's
Some
what
of them-
Jackie was saying also, is that
Yeah, about
that's
3rd,
kind of what
maybe
we're getting is 3rd
depending on
grade.
the child's reading level, but some of them could be read to younger children, and then some of them they could read themselves. And I started them on endangered animal species. I had one about robin rex preventive poaching, about elephant poaching, and one about sea turtles.
Yeah.
I think
yeah.
Team Up for Turtles is that one, isn't it?
Team Up for
Team Up
Turtles. The idea was to, do a number of them like that. And I have gone so far and then kind of just, been sitting on the rock myself, not doing much.
Well, do you have life lessons that you like to impart in your writing, or are you just trying to bring awareness to?
Well, it was
like the
more
things-
bringing awareness to our environment and, what we could do, how we could help, how we could, for instance, the one about Team Up for Turtles, they volunteered and went and did the egg hatchery thing,
We did that when we were in Florida one year. That was fun. To protect the sheltered eggs. Yeah, that was really neat.
And the gist of the one that I've just sort of been playing around with was, it was an awareness and what we might do as well.
Very
And
good.
Leah, what was your motivation when you started your children's books? What got you to do that? What was your inspiration, your muse?
Well, when I was teaching, I taught elementary gifted for several years, and the students loved writing, and I would write with them at the same time, and they loved animals. And I had my first grandchildren long about the time I started on my first book, who was also very bright and loved reading, and 2 boys. And so that's how they really got me started, I guess, as much as the students, between the motivation from the students and my grandsons and grandchildren now. Because I always loved the natural world and the exploration of, anything along that and what we could do to protect it and look after it.
We've talked a little bit about publishing and how we market our books. So we have Rosalind and Maggie, who are very traditionally published. They actually work through Penguin.
Pelican.
Yes. Pelican. It is Pelican. See, that felt wrong to me. And then we have Jackie, who is a small press. She works out of a small press. And how are your books published?
Mine were published ex libris, which is basically you buy their program and you publish with them.
So kind of a hybrid model.
Yes, right. Yeah.
Very good. So how have you marketed?
In marketing, I have not done a lot of marketing. I did for a while do in school, have some book signings at places. A few I've been to Columbus and Macon and had some there, but it's been several years since I did those. And the other thing is, I just didn't see time and effort and money to try to find the right kind of promoting that you need to do anything with them.
Well,
the way I had published, it would cost me money. I mean, they would help me whatever if I pay for a program or somebody to, be an agent or help or whatever. And I haven't done that.
Absolutely. Well, I'm independent myself. I have a small press, but really all the marketing falls on me for everything I do. And my biggest problem, well, one of my biggest problems is really just that my focus is not on marketing. My focus is on my family. So to do a book tour, I don't know that I can do a book tour because I can't take, 6 weeks and go travel the Southwest. I just can't do it. But I respect everybody who can, and I wish I could. I think I'm like Mike, I'm going to have to wait till I retire to be able to do those things. So I just have to keep writing until I get there.
Right.
Well, I hope that my children are grown.
Oh, see? Well, your children are working with you. You get to travel together.
Yes, very, very lucky.
Did you guys see my daughter?
It's a lot of
in
fun.
here. My
did.
kids are 7 and 5. I'm like, she's coming in here going, I'm hungry. And I'm like, I pushed her away. Just go. Like, go tell someone else. It's not me that you're hungry.
Well, see, Maggie has nieces and nephews, and I have grandchildren that are older than 5. Well, one of them is anyway. So, I mean, I'm at that different stage. But yeah, I mean, but it is a job. It
is a job, and you have to have the time, make the time, the money, the effort, whatever.
Yeah.
And
I was
also,
doing.
you have to have the energy, and
Yeah.
Jackie and Rosalind and Maggie, and I know that you guys have all put in so much energy into the marketing, and I know Mike does too. I'm always in awe of Mike's efforts. I don't know that I have that kind of energy, but I'm so in awe of people who do. I can't imagine doing 100 Zoom calls to classrooms. I mean, nobody would want to talk to me about my books because they're depressing, but in a classroom, you don't do that because you don't encourage, dark thoughts in a classroom. So,
Well, it takes time, a concerted effort to stay on top of it, regardless of whatever.
Yeah, and I would suggest that there's everybody has their own vision of success.
Yeah.
They have their own vision of where their market is, where is their audience. In Menlia, I stand in awe when I stand there with Jenny Jones at Corner Arts Gallery, and people walk in, and I'll go, well, are you familiar with? And they spit out Menlia Trammell before I even can get the word out.
Well, I've been around longer than some people.
Yeah,
local
and
treasure.
you are a local treasure, is right. And and I think that there's a gift to that from the niche which puts a smile on your face, because whether the different books that you have, which probably could do what Rosalind and Maggie have done, or what Jacqueline is aiming to do, you're very happy, being known in the Coweta, Meriwether, Troup County area, and that's awesome. I've come to accept where my regional audience really exists,
Your niche.
and I'm not going to run to New York City to try to sell my damn book. But
Yeah.
one is they don't want to swallow the sweet tea. But
Well, and it's hard. It's hard.
Yeah.
For instance, I went to Jekyll when I had my Team Up for Turtles and tried to, find a market there. And no, it didn't work out. And somebody from the State Garden Club sent me something trying to get me to do something with that one too, and some recognition. And it did not go anywhere else. So I was like, I should have wasted my time on that. Just,
the ups and downs, that's the hard thing about being an author, is there are so many ups and downs. I mean, I did 2 school visits this week. I did one, and they both were with the Atlanta Public Schools. One school sold 3 books. The other school sold 250. So the ups and downs of that day, I got, they're like, hey, we're so sorry, we only sold 3 books. I was like, darn. And then the next day, the school said 250. And I'm like, whoa. So the ups and downs, just like going to Jekyll and it not working out for you, I can relate.
Right at the sea turtle,
Yeah, and you
place,
think
that's how, why not at the sea turtle place? But no.
Yeah.
You would have thought that would have been a hit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I even wrote Rosalind Carter. I even wrote Rosalind Carter, trying to, but she never saw it, I'm sure. There are people in between who, it filters through different layers. Never got there.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I know when Whose Shadow Do I See came out in 2015, it launched at Foxtel. It was a great event, sold, a ton of books. And I had 3 more events that weekend. Well, one of them was at a really nice gift shop that had always carried my books in Roswell. And it was, 40 below and raining. I'm exaggerating. And I was like, oh my gosh, why did I agree to this? So I go and I was amazed. I sold a ton of books. And then I even know a book and toy shop owner who kept a journal of when they had when they had events or when they had things going on in the shop. And she said it made no difference whether they were shooting a movie out in the square or a beautiful sunny day, not a soul was in the shop, and it could be pouring down rain, and they had the best sales ever. So you just don't know. And I mean, Maggie and I have experienced that. I mean, it might be you sell 5 books at an event or you sell 50. there's
But
no
it is,
rhyme or
it's
reason to it.
definitely that relationship with them, you know, and them continuing to keep it in their store. So,
Yeah.
you know, if you think you're not going to sell anything, it's just keeping up that relationship.
Yeah.
Well, and I will say, one thing that's really helped too is, you know, from the beginning, if they don't carry the book, we don't do an event. And for some people, whether it's good, bad, or indifferent, it makes them more interested in looking at your book because you said, you know, if they approach you, would you come to our open house? Would you do this at an independent bookstore in Alabama? Well, we'd be happy to, but you have to carry the titles.
Oh, sure.
Where, you know, I don't know, it's just kind of a strange thing, I think. They're more interested, I think, because we've always had that stance. We're not going anywhere unless the books are in the store and they're carried there.
I think that makes sense.
Yeah. For instance, having them in Noonan where I taught, students of mine now have small children and maybe say, oh, that was my teacher, you know, and look at this book, you want to buy it because of the connection as much as the book.
But I think owners of bookstores sometimes and owners of gift shops will take a second look because imagine all the books that they could order. It has them taking a second look when we say, well, we're not coming if you don't carry it.
Yeah. You might
That's
have to get a
our
little bit.
stance from early on.
Yeah.
Does anybody have any questions before we wrap it up today? Anything in addition you would like to share that we didn't talk about?
Yeah, so you can get my books on Amazon and Barnes & Noble and a lot of the local gift shops in Sonoya and Peachtree City. So if you wanted to go in, Bloom Organics, Heirloom, The Roost, and Sonoya, you can get the books in a lot of those gift shops.
If you're thinking just around Atlanta, you know, Foxtel Books, Postman Books, I'm just trying to think of bookstores, Book Miser, Maggie, help me out, Barnes & Noble.
All the little gift
Have you been
shops.
at Hortons? Have you been at Hortons in Carrollton?
I have not.
No.
Or we don't know, honestly. I mean, our books are in places that we don't know necessarily. But, you know, just local that we know would be, you know, like Foxtel and Postman's and Book Miser in terms of bookstores. And then like Maggie said, a lot of the local gift shops also have them. And that's the great part about a children's book. Not only can it be in independent bookstores, it can be in all these gift shops. So
Yeah.
one other little thing that's great about children's picture books.
If nobody has any other questions, then I want to thank you all for being here. This has been very enlightening for me. I've enjoyed my day. So thank you for coming.
Well, thank you for having us.
Yeah.
Good
Absolutely.
seeing
And
you.
Jackie can
Yes,
go
so
take
much.
care of her kids.
It's me and my mini-me. What do you know?
What do you know?
Yeah, why don't you say bye to everybody? Thank you for having us. This was great.
Thank you all for coming. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Thank you so much.
Bye.